This is the rhythm line from Songs for Mastery, page 4. As you can see, we have the dotted quarter note with the eighth note rhythm again. We've got a quarter note with two eighth notes. I think this is the first time that we're seeing the two eighth notes connected with this line, the beam across the top here. We also have a new thing here called a tie. This curved line is connecting two notes to make them into one big long note. So that happens here with these half notes, happens here with these quarter notes. We're going to talk more about that. And notice that this whole line is in 2/4 time, so there's going to be two counts in a measure. So let's look at two measures at a time. Again, we're in 2/4 time. So when we do this, our first two notes are going to come on count 1 and count 2. We're not going to go on to 3/4. We're going to start a new measure here with the bar line. And this note is also going to come on count 1. So if I was to slide my notes in place, you can see here this quarter note comes on count 1. This quarter note comes on count 2. This half note is going to come into that second measure and take up that spot on count 1 and count 2 in the second measure. For this measure, we have some quarter notes, which are pretty straightforward, count 1 and count 2. Then we have a dotted quarter note. So this quarter note is going to be 1.5 counts. Then we have an eighth note with a little tail here, and that's going to be only half a count. In the measure, it'll look like this. This is count 1. This is count 2. So this dotted quarter note is going to take up all of count 1 and half of count 2, and then this quarter note is going to take up the other half of count 2. The way that we're going to notate this is we're going to put a 1 here and a 2 here, because that's on count 1 and count 2. This is going to take up all of count 1 and the first half of count 2, and then this note is also on 2. We're going to put an and or a plus sign there to show what that note is. Here we have quarter notes and then two eighth notes. So we have a quarter note on count 1, quarter note on count 2, a new measure with a quarter note on count 1, and then both of these eighth notes take up count 2. So let me demonstrate what that's going to look like. We're going to have a quarter note in the first measure on count 1, quarter note in the first measure on count 2, quarter note in the second measure on count 1, and then both of these notes are going to squeeze here onto count 2. So when we're writing this, what we would do is we would say, this is count 1, this is count 2, this is count 1 of the next measure, and then both of these notes are on count 2, and then on the second half of count 2, it's the and. 1, 2, 1, 2, and. In this measure, we have a tie. And you remember we're in 2/4 time. When you have a tie, you're going to connect two notes to make a longer note. In this case, this note is going to be 4 counts. It's a 2-count half note plus another 2-count half note. 2 plus 2 is 4. We can't just draw a whole note because it wouldn't fit into our measure. So what we'll do is we'll take 1 half note in the first measure, 1 half note in the second measure, but we'll connect them into one big long note. So we'll hold this note out for 4 counts. When we write it, we have to draw these numbers little to show that they're all part of the same note. So we would start on count 1 and hold through count 2, count 1, and count 2 for those 4 counts there. This is another tie in this measure. Here we're connecting 2 quarter notes. So a quarter note by itself is 1 count. This is 1 count. This is 1 count. We add them together and we get a 2-count note. Again, it won't fit for us to put a half note because it would run to the end of the measure. So we will have a quarter note that comes here at the beginning. Okay, another quarter note here that's tied together with this quarter note, followed by the last quarter note. Now again, you can see how a half note would fit and take up that same space, but it's going to go over the bar line, so it's not going to work. So here we're going to have count 1, count 2, holding into count 1 of the next measure, and then the next note comes in on count 2. Here you can see how the counting would go for the whole entire line.